Might help. I wasn't even sure we were going to see him. So I'm as fresh. All good. The other night. Wow. Out up to the gym there.
It's fun, isn't it?
Just like, I couldn't even pick up a couple.
What you wanted to do with your Monday
I
night.
didn't know what to do. What I'm gonna do, I'll go walk the loud. I'm
gonna step on a little bit.
Anyway, if I walk down the lake.
Step on it.
Back. The only thing I should have done that I didn't do. I guess I walked along, I could have clipped a couple of low-hanging branches for tall guys.
No, it's not.
But I got halfway down there.
You have an extra seat. I'm sorry, Tony, I can't walk.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
I,
What time is the next one? Parade starts at 4:30, so.
you don't mind?
Picture I sent you.
Me?
No.
You didn't get the picture I sent you?
I just want to do that.
I put it on.
I sent you yesterday.
I know,
Really?
this looks a lot better.
There'll be some comments about whether my dilapidated truck on my wife's car is talking Graham.
4th of July. This is heavy.
Yep.
She goes on.
Come on, Henry.
Who's doing?
But I'm ready to start. How are you doing? Right?
Yeah, actually, I am.
But I'm preoccupied.
Huh?
I've seen.
So, yeah.
A lot going on. Hi, how are you? Jim, Channel 9.
So we went down there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stand right up here. Yeah, maybe in the middle part. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks.
So when we, one first things we're gonna do is. Step up front here. You don't, you know, let them come up here, shake hands, and I'll get them.
Yeah, well, I'm okay. I really am.
All right, long day.
All right.
Hang in there, buddy.
Show on the road.
All right.
They're gonna make me stay on me.
Are you ready?
This is the man.
Terrific. The hour being 7 p.m., actually 7:04 p.m. on Monday, June 27th, 2022. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting this evening. Before we go any further, though, I'd like to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm wondering if Councilor Cheney can lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Cheney.
My pleasure.
We're joined this evening by City Clerk Katie Gargano. I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Here.
Counselor Susie,
Here.
Counselor Littman,
Present.
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Hamel,
Present.
Counselor Felch,
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
Present. Thank you. We're also joined at the council table this evening by City Manager Scott Myers, as well as City Finance Director Glenn Smith, who's also handling IT this evening. Before the first thing on our agenda is a city proclamation. And I see by all the shirts and the faces in the crowd, we have Laconia High School boys varsity lacrosse and Division III state champions. And so I realized it was kind of on short notice to get as many people here as you could, coaches, but it's great that to have you here. Just for those of you who are not familiar with the team, I'll kind of get you up to speed. But as I said, Laconia boys lacrosse won the Division III state championship about 2 weeks ago. Finished the regular season with an 11-3 record. I think you were 14-3 when you figure in the playoff wins. Interesting fact that I picked up recently was that you gave up only 4.3 goals per game, which is a remarkable achievement and pretty special, I think. You went into the state championships as a number 4 seed, and you knocked off the number 1 seed and previously undefeated Campbell. And I wasn't there for it, but what people said was the most exciting game they'd ever seen. And so it was, and then you beat Hopkinton, and it was 12-10. I happened to be at that game. Tremendously exciting game. And it really, you know, I think it personified what our community of Laconia is all about. A lot of grit, a lot of well-executed plays in the first half. Looked like you were going to steamroll them. When they came out in the second half, they really took off after you and tightened it up. And I think all of a sudden, that win that seemed so reachable in the end of the first half was all of a sudden jeopardized. But I know coach called a timeout at a critical point there, pulled everybody together, and you went back out there. And instead of really getting rattled and giving up and certainly not rolling over, you pulled together. And I think it's a great testament to your coaches, first and foremost. Your support systems at home who supported you through this season. I'm sure through a lot of practice over the years and a lot of teams, but it's a testament to you young men as well, where you have 30 individuals, everybody a little bit different, everybody unique, who came together for one mission and one goal. That was just not only to win a game, but to lift each other up, to have each other's back, and to, in the face of adversity, pull yourselves up off the ground, brush yourselves off, and get out there and really kick the other team hard. So it's a great testament too, because I think that defines our community in so many respects too. And you're the next generation of leaders, and you really showed it that afternoon. And I was particularly proud. I was particularly proud to see the sea of red in the stands too. The traveling folks supporting you. It was really a special day. I just want to say thank you and congratulations. So just a couple of things. The first thing is we have a proclamation. So coaches, come on up first. How about that? And then maybe we can just stand on the inside of council tables as soon as we finish this, or no, will you stay out there? You don't have to, it's dangerous in here. Snake pit. Coach Roy, I know you can handle yourself. Yeah. So we have a proclamation here, which says, whereas head coach Stephen McDonough, assisted by assistant coaches Rod Roy, Amani Wingira, and Andy Peranto, and the Laconia High School boys lacrosse team have demonstrated excellence by ending the season with a 14-3 record and winning the Division III state championship. And whereas on June 12th, 2022, Laconia defeated Hopkinton by a score of 12-10 to win the Division III state championship title for the 5th time in the program's history. And whereas the city recognizes that the future of our community lies in the initiative, enthusiasm, and spirit of our youth, and whereas several Laconia High School boys lacrosse players achieved special recognition, with several players being named as all-state players by the New Hampshire Boys Lacrosse Coaches Association, and whereas the Laconia City Council, the families and friends, along with sachems young and old, would like to express our sincere appreciation for the accomplishments the Laconia High School boys lacrosse team and coaching staff have made for themselves, their school, and their community. Now, therefore, I, Andrew J. Hosmer, Mayor of the City of Laconia, do hereby proclaim Monday, June 27th, 2022, as Laconia High School 2022 Boys Lacrosse Team Appreciation Day, and urge all citizens to join with the City Council in recognizing their outstanding achievement as state Class 3 champions.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to call out some names here. I know some of you want to come up and stand, but I'll call out some names here just for certificate of recognition. I realize everybody's not here, but when you hear your name, come on up, give you your certificate and right the inside. Yeah, and walk right around the inside. And I know the counselors would like to say congratulations personally. So first of all, certificate of recognition for Coach Stephen McDonough.
Oh, I guess.
Assistant Coach Rob Roy. Assistant Coach Amani Wingira, not here, correct? All right, I'll leave that for you. Assistant Coach Andy Paranto.
He's coaching Cooper.
I got you. All right.
Thank you.
So is Cam Harriman here? Didn't recognize you. First team All-State goalie, right? And captain of the team. Pretty cool. Thank you. Well done. Brody Rollins, is he here? Brody's not here. With Brody Rollins was honorable mention All-State and midfield. How about JP Harris? Carson Tucker, I don't think he's here, but Carson's second team All-State as well. He's a basketball. Okay. How about Evan Rollins? There he is. All right. But also second team All-State, top 10 in his class, and going to SNHU to study business and finance, right? Well done. Yeah, absolutely. Keith Mello. First team All-State defense. Cody Newman. Okay, you got it. How about Evan Carrigan? Evan. Edgar Conroy. Okay. Senior graduation speaker, is headed to PSU?
Yes.
PSU, very good. And second team, all New Hampshire. Well done. Tim, second team all state. Well done. Alice Richardson. Mommy loves you. Eli Nato. Lucas Bean. Well done, Lucas. Yeah. Paul Roy. Well done, man. Sam Mize. Stephen Mingo Timmons. Stevens.
Great basketball.
Basketball, all right. Keaton Beck.
Basketball.
Basketball, all right. Zach Whitney. Congratulations. There was something else I wrote there. I couldn't read my writing. Is it John Bemis or Bemis? Bemis. Come on. Kyle Wilt. Ian Fleming. Ryan Benzovich. Not here. Caden Tucker. All right.
Basketball.
Basketball. Yuri Lewis. Landon Brothers. Michael Muller. No show, huh?
No, he got touched.
You did? Caden Noyes. All right. Anyway, Coach, I'll leave these with you. Maybe you can disseminate them as you can. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. Thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for making this community so proud of your achievements, and keep it up, okay?
Stay.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I gotta do this like that, but then I get the results.
Cheat sheets.
I specialize in gut shorts. Where the shorts from? Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach. Well done. Oh, man. Grab my pen, would you mind?
I think you just watched Channel 9.
Okay. We can act up then. Go back normal now. I'll roll along with a couple of basic things here, even though everybody's not here. So item number 7, which is acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. Minutes of the regular city council meeting of June 13th, 2022 were distributed to the council on June 23rd, 2022. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Item number 7B, which are minutes of the city council budget meeting of June 6th, 2022 were distributed to the city council on June 23rd, 2022. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Give me just a minute before we go too far along with consent and action or citizens' comments. We have no consent and action items this evening, so the next item would be 9, which is citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. Come right up. I just ask you to hold on just a second, David, before you come right up though, until maybe we get Councilor Hamel and Councilor Lippman back. So it might take just a moment. This is what it's come down to. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like,
Where's
where's mine?
COVID?
We did the minutes of the meeting. We're on citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda.
Okay.
We're on number 9, which is citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda.
Mayor, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Stamps has not,
I have some more. comments.
hasn't said anything yet, so welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is David Stamps. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Laconia Human Relations Committee, which is the mayor's committee established more than 20 years ago.
That's mine.
Sometimes I think of it as the conscience of Laconia, but in any case, I'd like to make a presentation entitled "Why Fly a Gay Pride Flag at Laconia City Hall?" I'm here tonight as a result of my wife reading the June 10th letter in the Sun by Jasmine Jackson on the LGBTQ+ issues. Ms. Jackson's letter ended, "Lastly, where are the pride flags at City Hall? For a city making such progress, it is disappointing that the mayor and council didn't make this a priority." When my wife Judy finished reading that letter, she turned and looked at me sweetly, as wives do sometimes, and says, "Isn't that something the Laconia Human Relations Committee should talk about?" And indeed it was. At our last meeting on June 13th, the committee discussed the issue and voted unanimously to ask the city council to allow the hanging of a gay pride flag from City Hall. I have one here. The committee contributed their own personal money to purchase the flag to present to the city. According to a Gallup poll, Gallup finds that 7.1% of US adults identifying as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or something other than straight or heterosexual. The percentage has steadily grown since Gallup first began measuring this in 2012. Based on the 2020 US Census, the adult population was 258 million. This calculates to 18 million people identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. This number has almost doubled since 2012. The legalization of gay marriage by the Supreme Court in 2015 has seen many people come out of the closet. In addition, Gallup's annual update on marital status finds that 10% now are married to a same-sex spouse, a proportion that has been steadily growing as well since the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriages. Why is this important? Despite their widespread acceptance, their welcome has always not been uniform around this country, despite their rights enunciated by the US Constitution. The larger issue is that the range of human sexuality is a scientific fact. As people mature, they are not converted or programmed to become gay. Self-awareness continues to mature all of their lives, just as hopefully all of us mature. We do know through many studies that acceptance by others is extremely important to good mental health. USA Today published in 2017 a study that found fewer US teens attempted suicide in states where same-sex marriage was legal in the years leading up to the 2015 Supreme Court ruling. That's a big number. While not a definitive causal relationship, it means that we should think very carefully how we treat other people's feelings and relationships. Other studies have shown adverse effects from stigmatization of gays and lesbians to both mental and physical health, including risky behavior and substance abuse. The rainbow flag is a symbol of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, LGBTQ, etc. The flag would signify Laconia supports this important community, and we join other communities around the country in standing against hate and bigotry. If Laconia adopts this pride flag, will this mean that other groups will want to display their flags? I hope so. In keeping with the vision of our Human Relations Committee, Laconia should accept other symbols that envision a world where everyone is treated with dignity, fairness, respect, and kindness. So this is the flag.
You unfurl it, please, David?
I can do that. It's not going to fit, but I can always wear it.
I was just looking, that's sort of the old school flag. There are some
I don't
different
know.
ones.
I don't know what the versions are, but I'll tell you, my family, we have somebody who's gay. I suspect many families have, whether everybody knows it or not. And it hasn't made anything. That person is still a beautiful person in my eyes. But as you know, I grew up, I'm a computer person, and I've actually presented on the history of the computer. One of the original mathematicians, Alan Turing, who contributed so much to the ending of World War II through his cracking of the Enigma code, was a gay person. At the time in England, it was illegal. He was arrested in 1952 and condemned, given a choice of being jailed or being forced to take conversion therapy through hormones. He committed suicide the next year. He was re-recognized about 15 years later by the Queen and other people in Britain for his contributions to saving the Battle of the Atlantic, cracking the Enigma code. In this time, we can't afford to throw people away. We're all human resources, and it doesn't matter you know, what kind of flower they are or what their petals look like or anything else, you know, I think I'll shut up now, Mayor.
David, thank you for coming and making that presentation. As you
Welcome.
know, as a member of that committee, I wholeheartedly support.
I guess on
This
behalf
endeavor.
of the committee, I'll present the flag to you to figure out how to hold it up.
Thank you.
And thank you, councilors, for indulging me.
So we are still on number 9, citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. If anyone else would like to speak tonight to matters not on the agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Mr. Smith, is there anyone online who'd like to speak right now? Moving right along to item number 13A, next on our agenda, which is under public hearings. It's a public hearing, ordinance 2022-161-25, amending chapter 161 licensing to add a new section 161-25 alcoholic beverages. Notice of the public hearing was made available in the June 16th, 2022 edition of Laconia Daily Sun and posted at Laconia City Hall, offices of SAU number 30, Laconia Community Center, and the Laconia Public Library on June 14th, 2022. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. So I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:27 p.m. And if you'd like to make a comment, now would be the appropriate time.
How you guys doing? Nice to see y'all.
Good to see you, Anthony. Just introduce yourself to Katie, so she's got
Anthony
it for the record.
Sandgate, on Tower Hill Tavern in the big house down at the Weirs. And trying to get the time for us to close, 2 o'clock. We want to serve alcohol till 1:40, last call. Get everybody out of there by 2:30. So I'm asking for an extra hour to serve alcoholic beverages down the Weirs.
What
On
time do you
certain
ordinarily
nights, too. I want
stop?
to do Friday and Saturday night and during the festivals like Timberfest, Bike Week, Wicked Weirs.
What time do you ordinarily stop? Are you required to stop serving alcohol and beer?
We have last call, basically at 1:15. People have to be out of the restaurant by 1:30, all alcoholic beverages off the tables. And that's state ordinance, I guess, or city ordinance for that right now.
Right. If you don't mind me asking, how was Bike Week as far as attendance and business?
It's fabulous, very busy. Great weather. It was Mother Nature all the way.
Right. Okay.
But I was
down there a number-
ready for it, so I was ready.
Good. I was down there a number of times and it looked like things were going pretty well.
Great.
So it's good to hear. Guess we wouldn't be taking questions. So thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Anyone online, Mr. Smith? Seeing no one else is here to address this matter, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:29 p.m. Since we have a couple of matters to get to this evening, I'll keep my remarks relatively short. But I will say this is the first time we've had a meeting, we met last week, but it was a budget meeting. It was the first meeting we've had since Bike Week. And, you know, I once again, I thought it was really a terrific week, well run by the city, well attended. Attitudes were of our visitors were just remarkable. I think people are just so happy to be back together. I think it was, I will say it was really responsibly run by all the businesses down there as well, whether you were serving slices of pizza or drinks and have lots of music. It was, it was just, it was a good solid week. So it was nice to see it bounce back. And I'm glad to hear Anthony come up and say that it was a really good week. I think that's really important as we get ready for the 100th anniversary. Secondly, and finally, the issue of hanging a gay pride flag was a really interesting topic to come up in front of the Human Relations Committee. And I thought it was appropriate. And I applaud the person who wrote the letter to the editor and said, where's the city on this issue? And shouldn't they be speaking up? And it really, it was provocative. And I thought, should we be having this discussion? And and I just to sit back and be a little more self-reflective. And I do believe that we have a community of many parts, many backgrounds, many origins, and that the strength of our city and the fabric of our community is through diversity and acceptance of one another, and treating everybody with the same level of civil rights. And I think that's a very powerful message that I think I take from this flag. So whether we choose to hang it just for the end of Pride Month, or whether we choose to have another maybe smaller flag in a more prominent position somewhere, I'd hope we take that up under perhaps new business at some point here, if that's the appropriate time, and consider whether it's something we'd like to do. And I hope that we do consider it seriously, and we hang it. So that is the conclusion of my remarks. Now go right along to council comments.
Not wanting to disappoint,
Never do.
I have received more calls from constituents with regards to expansion of the water system to the northwest quadrant of the city. And so I was wondering if the council could ask the water department to give us a more definitive estimate of what it would cost us, the city or the water department or whoever, to extend it out Hilliard Road. And in that same vein, I seem to recall there were discussions about plans for the bridge on Hilliard Road. I would hope that perhaps that could include some consideration for water passing over or under or through or whatever that particular dam or bridge, whatever it is. The folks at one of the roads up there are in the position where they have wells that are down 1,500 feet and they're dry. And they're talking about drilling more wells. I think they have, and those have gone dry or are down to less than 2 gallons a minute, which is pretty desperate for a whole neighborhood. I think if the city can invest $15 or $16 million in the Colonial, which I thoroughly support, we ought to give some thought to infrastructure that supports our citizens. So if we could just ask for some definitive ideas. I've heard so far 2 numbers, and I have attended meetings at the water department once or twice, and they've run the range from 3 million to 6 million to you don't understand the complications, et cetera, et cetera. I'd ask that we get some sort of a report if the council.
Could I have you pause just a second there? I just want to clarify in the amount of money invested in Laconia around the city on behalf of the city. Just can I get that accurate number? I mean, sometimes it just seems to keep rising, but I think it's, go ahead, Scott.
I think we're at 8.1 million.
That we're at 8 of our money.
A few
significant
dollars
sum.
on either side, but 8.1.
A
Yes.
significant sum. I just want to make sure that our city's.
And I
commitment is that- No,
apologize.
it's quite all right.
I was thinking about the whole
True.
project, not just the city. Anyways, whether it's $1 million or 8 million, I think my argument still remains. We ought to at least look into this to see if we can help our citizens. I asked,
Yes.
did you?
Yeah, I think to be fair to the water department, we need to have some sense of what expanding it to the north end represents. I think maybe you need to get together with the water department or with the counselors here, because I think just saying what's it take to get to here, if here could be, there could be a difference of 2-3 times depending on what here represents.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I would only say to you that I wanted to have some idea that the council supports looking into it before going to speak to them or anything else.
I think that you brought up, whether the council would support it. also may be affected by, you use the example of Colonial, there's multiple people participating in it. So, if there's a certain neighborhood, and I understand the situation that they're in, that whether they're willing to contribute towards what would be a significant impact on all ratepayers to be able to do it. I think that we need to sort out some of those things to be able to give it a fair hearing.
And I'm sorry, just Bob, I agree wholeheartedly. I think Bob and I have talked about there should be some cost recovery from people who then subsequently get into a system. So I don't disagree with you. I guess bringing it up tonight was to say, would you mind if I went forward and asked for these questions, or the council ask as a group?
Yeah, I think as a part of our master planning effort in terms of looking at water distribution, I think that's part of it. I think in terms of mapping out what different options would be. I mean, I can appreciate that the fact that some water we sell to other communities, but don't sell it to
Right.
others. Why people who live in the city may want to raise concerns about that. But I do think that we need some parameters around it, and we need to know what people who would benefit from it would be willing to contribute to it as well.
Bob, sorry.
Sorry, if I may, to talk to the whole council, okay, as it lies on to the water department. We realize this problem has been brought to us a couple of times. We have talked with our local federal organization, you might say the congressional situation here. And Congressman Pappas has visited us a couple of times to talk about this. We've outlined it, and we're actively trying to find a way to have some federal participation first in the study and outline of what we need to do, and then determine what the cost is going to be, and go from there. And we've had some discussions with the residents up there, along with Councilor Cheney, about getting some cost payback over time, whatever it does like that. So it is there, and I know Wes sits on the board with us, and that's something we look at because we realize that it's very critical to the growth of the city for the northern part of the city. Now, at the same time, we don't know what's going to happen with the state school and how that developer sits in all of this and what we can work with that issue. That's all coming together over the next year, we believe. And so it'll hopefully get addressed by that.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Councilor Susie. But I think it is a topic that we should be digging into thoroughly. Councilor Cheney, certainly one of the issues, and you're probably familiar with this, with flowage is down. People tend to conserve. So, the idea we need to, if we can sell more water, that we can, the water department will look very favorably upon that. So stretching some of the lines may be a good idea. Yes, go right ahead. Get you next. Yeah, go ahead.
I can tell you that over the studies that we've done in West, correct me if I'm wrong here, our consumption of water, our sale of water has been on decline.
Right.
Okay, so if we can find a way to increase our revenue to help keep the rates to where they are, okay, or
more flowage, right? I mean,
Yes.
you need more flowage, more households, for instance.
even though we're getting a lot more apartments being built, hotels being built, resorts being built, and they're all using low flow devices, you might say. So our actual gallons per household, okay, or over the last few years have been going down. So we need some help in that area, okay? And that would be helpful. But again, as Councilor Cheney said, we've talked at numbers of $5, $6, $7, $8 million. Okay, we would not. I don't think it'd be looked at very favorable to try and put that upon all of our ratepayers. So that's where we need some help.
Councilor Susie, would you?
Next week is our next week. Not this week, but next week is a commission meeting. And I'll invite Councilor Cheney to come with me, and we'll bring it up and go from there.
The troublemaker.
Well, so long as he brings coffee, donuts, something like that, he's welcome. But
Right, he
would
brings
you keep us
coffee.
posted on Congressman Pappas and any word you get as far as
I think
federal
we're running for him right
appropriations?
Now he's running for reelection. I mean,
Well, He's probably anxious to deliver something to the community, so maybe we can work on him a little more, okay? Thank you. Counselor Cheney, Counselor, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I don't mind this being looked into at all. But I think along with all the questions you just said, I think one of the questions need to be is you can run pipe anywhere you want for whatever cost it is. But once it gets there, will it work? And you need to find out whether the sewage will work and whether the water will work.
There's
Those are
enough
two
demand,
important
right?
things. Because the way it is now, neither one will work. The water's gonna go bad and there's not enough water when you flush to get it to where it's gotta go. With the amount of houses that are there now. I know you're looking for the future, but if you hook them up and hope for the future, then that system's not gonna work.
Right, well, you brought up an
We've-
exact point
we've
that was brought up
Talked
the
about
last
this
time.
before.
We discussed it because we'd have to put a tank somewhere that uphill there, which would be the highest area there is. So that's why we want to look at if this is done and how it's done, along with the state school development. Maybe there's gonna be more demand there and you can flush that tank. So do exactly what you're talking
Well,
about. I
it's-
don't know.
Yeah. Well, we did this in Aqua Soleil there up on the hill. And then we had to open the valve, let the water run down the
Right.
street because it was stagnating. So,
Totally.
that's
why-
just a question that needs to be asked if you're gonna go and ask with all this other stuff.
Well, I think proper planning would prevent poor performance. So I think planning this out would be, very wise, right?
It needs to be planned so that the
Yeah.
system will work.
Any other council comments? Counselor Cheney, you were interrupted.
I have a list of 7 items. I think I'll postpone them for another time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any Counselor Felch?
Yeah, I just want to echo everything you said about Motorcycle Week and also thank Charlie and Jennifer and Cynthia and the entire board for everything they do year round to make this event such a success. Yeah. And also while I'm at it, the parade, the Independence Day Parade is July 3rd. Starts at 4:30 at the high school. Looking for more people to be in it. And pretty much anybody, kids on bikes, businesses, whoever wants to be in it. We want to make it festive and have a great parade. So hope to see you there, and following the parade, everything will be happening at O-Pee-Chee Park with bands and food and the fireworks at 10 o'clock.
I'll be by to pick you up, Scott.
Absolutely. We'll go on the
He's
bikes.
Cycle ready.
Any other council comments? Counselor Haynes?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for Scott. Scott, could you possibly find out with Dean where they are on on Bay Street? After that fire, it's been 5 months. There has nothing been done. There's, I think, multiple tenants have decided they'd like to stay there. Of course, there's signs on the whole work, and I'm not being facetious, but the only thing that it seems to have been accomplished there is there's a for sale sign, a property for sale sign. So I don't know if I'm being facetious. I don't know if that's a fire sale or whatever it is. But anyways, if you could find out, I know that insurance and these things take time, but it just seems like there's been nothing done whatsoever.
I can give you a brief update and then I'll firm it up with some more details, but we certainly have reached out to the property owner several times. It is my understanding that there was no insurance on that property. So it's not that insurance is hanging it up. There was no insurance. Proceeds are going to be paid. So that's part of the challenge. We have worked to secure all of the windows, doors, et cetera, on the first floor so that there's no one, in there, just hanging out. But it is open and it's a definite eyesore, and we continue to be in regular contact with the property owner. And it's probably going to be a court action going forward, but let me firm up the details. But I believe that's what's driving it. And you're correct, there is a for sale sign. It's actually that house. And there's another smaller parcel. I think that might be 17 Bay, and there's a house at 19 Bay Street, if I recall the number. And I think they're collectively there on the market for $200,000. And I'm just wondering who would even buy it if then you've got to tear down and remove the demolition. And it just seems like a very upside down price right now. But this is a property owner that's well known to the city and multiple properties that they do own. And we are continuing to reach out and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to promise anything's going to be quick, though.
Okay, one other thing, Mr. Mayor. Counselor, this is for Counselor Cheney. Would you just, in your discussions with Chief Canfield, just, there has been situations on the Wild Trail in the south end that have been unwanted behavior. Let's put it that way. And I'm just assuming, and I'm hoping that the bicycle patrol once in a while swings in there and make sure that people that want to walk on the trail can walk on the trail without being harassed and whatever else happens.
I have had discussions with the chief about a number of issues in the last few days. That was not one of them, and I'll try to see to it before the weekend.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have one other item to bring up, and I think there's some other councilors might want to also, now direct this back again to Councilor Cheney and his discussions with the chief. It's the situation we have out here at Rotary Park with the camp, I call it a campground now. It's reaching to the point. And I know there was a memo that Councilor Hammer put out to all of us recently, and
No memo, it was just a reply,
or a reply that you had put out. Okay, but
not a memo.
we gotta, how do we address this? I don't know. But, you know, last council meeting we had and talked about people coming into town to visit us. And this is one of the first things they see when they're trying to come into the downtown area. And it's a park. We have different ordinances. We close our parks at 10 o'clock at night, I think. Not supposed to smoke in the parks. There's no drinking in the parks. This is pretty horrible right now and disgusting. And we see letters in the editor, letters in the Sun, all over the place. I don't know what to do. And I guess we have to do something. And it's not just there. Okay. I get calls from constituents at the end of Davis Place. And the Winnipesaukee River is used as a local bathtub and everything else like that. I don't know, you know, you hear all kinds of rumors from bus tickets being given to people come here and all this kind of stuff. We're gonna do something about this.
If I may. I spoke with the chief as recently as today with regards to Rotary Park. The department's planning a significant presence in the park over the next week or so, try and send a strong message. They've assigned at least one officer and sometimes two to be there during the day and evening hours, and have actually pulled some detectives to help assist in the effort. I think the chief, I know the chief understands the problem. I suspect the council understands part of the problem is there are rights that those people have. They just don't have a right to make it difficult for the rest of us. My suggestion to the chief last week was that somebody just spend the day there, just stand there and be seen. And if you litter or if you smoke or if you do any of those other things, you'll get a ticket. They won't pay it. Then they'll get arrested for non-payment and so on and so forth. But the point being, and I, not to drag this out any longer than absolutely necessary, but when I was a young street cop, I worked for an old timer who we had the same sort of problem. And he said, go stand in the middle of those people. Don't give them a hard time. Don't argue with them. Just stand there. I did that. And after about an hour, they started drifting off because they couldn't talk about the things they wanted to talk about and do the things they wanted to do because there was a young police officer standing in the middle of them. And the chief, I think, has accepted that as a part of the method for dealing with this. The one comment the chief made to me that I think is fair is he said, you know, Counselor, this is like squeezing a balloon. You know, you squeeze it here and it bulges over here. And so in fairness to him and the men and women of the department, we have to recognize you deal with the Meredith Bridge Cemetery and you force them out of there and they end up over here. I just get myself bleeding here. And that's going to happen when we clean out Rotary Park. And we can't be mad at the police department because it moves on to someplace else. We've just got to keep dealing with it at each of those places. And I want to compliment the chief and the ladies and gentlemen who work for him. They really have expressed their willingness to try and help solve this problem. So I hope to see some positive results soon.
Council Cheney, Council Whitman.
You know what, I think, look back to issue of substance use and how the city, we sort of said to the police department at the time, you know, we're willing to put up $50,000 to give you some capital, if you will, to, you know, work on the problem. They came up with the program that we have today, which has been recognized nationally and is statewide. So I guess when we get to budget discussion, might like to suggest we put a similar challenge out to and see if we can not only just police the matter, but to work to resolve it in some creative way.
It's not going to be easy.
No, I'm,
Throw money at it.
it's not about throwing money at it. I think that what happened with the substance use disorder is we got people into treatment. We got different services in place. And I know some people will not accept those things, but I'm not saying that particular strategy is the strategy, but I guess I feel like we're putting the men and women of the police department in a difficult no-win situation, which is just to, as you said, the analogy of squeezing the balloon, it's just going to move to another place and then they have to do it again and again. You know, what could we do to support them in working through the issue? And there'll be no perfect solution here.
Are there any other council comments at this time or liaison reports? Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 19, which is citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. If there's a current agenda item, now would be the appropriate time to come on up and introduce yourself and make a comment, or raise your hand online and Mr. Smith will acknowledge you. Thank you. Moving on to item number 20, which is our city manager's report. I turn that over to City Manager Scott Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So included in your agenda packet for this meeting, you've got two reports. One is the project's update. Again, we continue to be working on the Elm Street Sewer Project in the area, some of the side streets right now. We'll get back in Elm Street in front of Elm Street School very soon now that school is out for the year. Final paving staying in Lakeport over in Mechanic, Clinton, Cole, Prospect Hill, and Pear will take place. We're planning on July at this point, again, around paving schedules and weather. And then we're also looking to do the paving on Addison and Durkee in a July-August timeframe, again, depending on paver availability and weather. Want to update a little bit on something. Actually, we'll go to the downtown tree project. So the trees are in. All of the final concrete work has been completed, including the major shifting of the panels that were over in front of Henry's Dry Cleaner. So that's all squared away. New flags, as you know, went up this spring. We worked with Celebrate Laconia and I believe it was a retired area, I think high school, but definitely an art teacher who worked with some of our high school students. And now you see some of the banners downtown that are tied into different storefronts and different downtown connections, if you will, that were done by the high school students. And again, as you know, earlier this year, all of the decorative light posts were painted and the new globes went on last year. So it's got a nice look. And again, as our Parks Director, Amy, mentioned during her presentation, it's been landscaping responsible for fertilizing and maintaining the trees for the first couple of years. We do have the water bags on them. I forget the name of those fancy bags that go in and help slow drip water, but we'll be on top of it. But a lot of good things happening there. Not in your report, but again, just to provide an update to you and the public, I sent you some information, I believe it was last week, on our lifeguard situation. We have just not been able to hire the number of lifeguards that we need to adequately cover the beaches. So Bond Beach will be covered. We do not have enough to rotate through on Weirs Beach at this point, nor did we last year, or I think the year before that. Some of those folks we have shifted over into being more of the beach caretakers and ambassadors. So we will have full staff presence there through some of the changes the Parks Commission has implemented the last years. We've had a few challenges with some folks who necessarily didn't like the fact of no cooking and no hanging of tarps and those types of things, but we've worked, we've educated when needed. We've had the support of the police department. So we will still continue to have that presence and be the ambassador and, you know, a little bit of toughness, but tough love, let's call it on. Let's make the beach friendly and family friendly again. So update there. And we're not the only ones in the lifeguard situation. Unfortunately, that same article I sent you, I believe it said that Concord has 7 pools and they're only able to staff 4 of them this year. And Water Country is screaming for lifeguards just for whatever reason. That job that was in high demand and having hundreds of applicants for 20 or 30 years ago, the times have shifted and folks are going a different direction. So we will do the best that we can. On the economic development report, pretty staggering numbers when you look at the unemployment numbers for the month of May. Not only Laconia and the county, but Concord, Manchester, and the state, everything is running under 2%. And again, I don't have to tell you, going up and down any street in Laconia or the state, how many of them have wanted and, you know, come in and, you know, pick your hours, call your hours, we'll take whatever you've got type of thing. So I believe it's still going to continue to be a challenging season for some of our hospitality industry folks in particular. Some of the visas and the folks coming from other countries haven't materialized as of yet, and that puts some challenges for some of our businesses as well. On the second page of the economic development report, again, will not come as any surprise to anybody. Unemployment, inflation continues to run rampant. The number for the month of May came in at 8.6%. So going in through 5 months of this year, we've annualizing over 8% inflation. So hang on, buckle your seatbelt, and at least gas has dropped a couple of cents, if that's a moral victory right there.
Go ahead, Council.
So I guess the question on particularly our paving projects and coming up in the proposed budget. Was listening to the news on the way back up from Concord today, and you know, some communities have had to reimagine what they're going to be able to accomplish based on fuel costs and so forth. What's your perspective in terms of where we are solidified on our inflationary, potentially sensitive projects?
So we have components, and Wes, feel free to jump in here. We have components of our paving contract that are fixed, and then there's others that are variable, tied to oil cost and other commodities as well. One of the nice things in dealing with the budget this year is originally when we were putting it together, I told Wes to be figuring out $1,250,000 in cash in the operating budget this year. And through one of the pieces of legislation that got approved, more money came for roads and more for bridges. So we actually were able to bump that up to $1.5 million from the $1,250,000. So hopefully, based on what they were planning to do, that $1,250,000 was going to buy you, hopefully $1.5 million still will cover that. Some of the projects will be separate from this. So like the Elm Street project is the sewer project. It'll be the sewer funds that are paying for that versus the general fund dollars. So we will continue to monitor the cost. Obviously, we've had a quick spike this spring. We'll watch that and see where we stabilize. And one of your carry forward items tonight, you are carrying forward, you know, money that was unspent in paving that we just haven't gotten to yet from what we're going to close the books on June 30th. And then with approval of the budget tonight, you've got the additional $1.5 million on top. So we're still sitting at around $1.7 million and change with new paving dollars that will be available with the adoption of the budget. And then anything else, you know, like Addison Street, you know, being the water project, the water department will be paying a share of some of those paving and stuff. So I think we're okay, but like with everything, and with fleet fuels, with building heat coming into this winter, there's definitely going to be jumps. Electricity use. We're all hearing that the you know, the component of delivering your electricity is going to be doubling that component, not so much your usage component, but the infrastructure to get it there. So all of these things were not necessarily on our radar to this extent when we started putting the budget together back in January. You will see in the amendment that I shared with you last week, we put $150,000 additional into a fuel contingency line item so that we could monitor what heating oil is doing when we go out to bid, what our natural gas price is, what electricity is doing, what is happening to our fleet. So rather than put it in several budgets, several departments across the budget book, we'll put it in a contingency and we'll be able to update the council as we go along for requests to pull money and why we're requesting to pull it. So we're on top of it. Our crystal ball probably isn't better than anybody else's right now, but I still think we're in solid shape, especially considering the $1.5 million in cash in the operating budget this year.
Thank you, Scott. Would love to see the flags on Main Street turned around.
Yeah, me too. Is that for trucks?
The reason for that is you get the box trucks in there and where they hang, they get snagged and they go. So in the outer area, I understand it, but we lost one flag today that the mayor was kind enough to return to us. And I'm not sure what happened in that particular case, whether it was just a wind gust or something, but we lost a flag down today, but we have lost some in the past with just
There's one that
getting.
came on.
That just,
I'm
snapped,
saying,
the
so,
one I
but-
brought in, but that wasn't a truck, but
But it was,
I know times are tough, but I just think it looks far more visually appealing with the American flags hanging over Main Street.
let me discuss with a public works director. And if you want to put a little bit more in a flag contingency account for flags that
We
get
can do
hooked
that.
on trucks and go away.
Take their license plates.
I think
We'll
we can
deputize
do
you,
that.
counselor, and you
There you
can
go.
sit down on Main Street for me, take names.
I think we can do that and then put the other artwork and what have you over the sidewalks. I think it looks terrific. So we're making some good headway. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
Moving on to new business. Under agenda item number 21A, which is a request to set the polling hours for the state primary and state general elections being held on September 13th, 2022 and November 8th, 2022 respectfully, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Under per RSA in cities, the city council shall determine per RSA 659:4. In cities, the city council shall determine the polling hours no later than 30 days prior to a state election. So right now I'd be looking for a motion to move to approve the polling hours for the state primary and state general elections being held on September 13th, 2022 and November 8th, 2022 respectively, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So made by Counselor Hamel, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative and that motion passes. Thank you. Item number 21B, which is a request to approve a tentative agreement for SEA Laconia administrative and technical employees. The council has been briefed on the terms of the tentative agreement prior to this evening's meeting. So right now, you want to just highlight that quickly or should we just go right to a vote? Is there any reason to cover anything here?
I can't cover it
Till we vote.
unless you approve it.
Oh, gotcha. So right now I'd be looking for a motion to move the city council to approve a tentative agreement for SCA Laconia administrative and technical employees for the period from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. Motion passes. Just briefly from the 10,000 foot level, Scott.
Sure. So this is our fourth union, the last one that is now under agreement, and along with all of our non-union folks for starting the new fiscal year, July 1, which is great. Everyone's on the same page. Very similar to the other contracts you've approved. The same changes to the health insurance plan, the cost sharing, and the city's contribution to the health reimbursement account. The introduction of a dental plan at different cost share from the employee's part for a single 2-person or family plan. In this particular case, we removed the lowest step in the pay structure and added a new top step at a 3% differential. So there are still 10 steps to it. But again, this just goes to try and help us stay a little bit more competitive for our recruitment and our retention. SEA, I believe, has 35 members. There are a lot of the administrative and support staff here in City Hall. There are all the folks in Parks and Recreation, a few of the folks over at Public Works, and the admin positions over in Fire Department.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the city manager? Thanks. Okay, moving on to item 21C. Which is a request to submit a grant pre-application to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services State Aid Grant Program for the Northern Lakeport Sewer Project. The Northern Lakeport Sewer Project is scheduled to bid in August 2022 and has an estimated construction cost of $2.4 million. A 20 to 30% grant would provide between $480,000 and $720,000 in grant funding. Assistant Public Works Director Krista Larson has requested the City Council authorize Public Works to submit a pre-application to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services State Aid Grant Program for the Northern Lakeport Sewer Project. Looking for a motion right now to move that the City Council authorize Public Works to submit this pre-application for the Northern Lakeport Sewer Project to Department of Environmental Services State Aid Grant Program. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Hamel. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. At 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Item number 21D, which is a approval of resolution 2022-10 relative to the fiscal year 2022 year-end carry forwards. The end of every fiscal year, there are monies that have been appropriated for special purposes that for various reasons have not been spent. City Council approval of this request allows the money required to complete or continue these projects to be carried forward and spent in fiscal year 23. These funds as have been previously appropriated, so there is no fiscal impact. Scott, what's the total amount that we're going to be carrying forward? 41,758, or is that just a single line item?
No, it's broken up some money from the,
Individually, right?
yeah, it's about 50,000 in the operating budget. There's probably about $300,000 to $400,000, a little over $400,000 in the current year capital budget. We have some carry forwards from prior years that probably totals in the area of $200,000. And then we've got some projects within the sanitary sewer fund, in particular, some of the capital projects that probably total well over $1 million. And again, some of that's just the timing where the work is going to be happening, but it'll all still needed.
So I know we had a discussion earlier today. What was the line that you were recommending I look closely at?
Right. So if you were looking for a motion to approve it and then offer an amendment to it, I was going to give you the very first number on the top of page 41, which is the remaining
There we
balance,
go.
a not to exceed amount in our contingency item. We would be rolling over $48,882. So if you wanted to recommend that you carve a few thousand out of that for a different purpose and then have the remainder flow into contingency, that would be the motion you'd be seeking.
So we've got to move the question first and then amend it. Okay. All right. So right now be looking to for a motion to move to approve resolution 2022-10 relative to fiscal year 2022 year-end carry forwards as presented. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Susie. Is there any further discussion on this? Yes, Councilor Hamel.
Scott, seems like we've had these in the past where a date was attached to them of when these funds were voted on. I guess my question is, do you know what is the oldest on here that's been carried forward? Has it been carried forward? Any of these carried forward year to year to year, or are these mostly this year to next year?
It's mostly 1 year. Sometimes it might go back a second year, like, we might be saving up some sidewalk money to do a big sidewalk project or something like that. So there might be a quirky one or two in here, like on the 5th or 6th line down on page 41, we've got a small amount in an attorney environmental expense. You can see there with a calendar year 15 next to it. It's not every year that we have, a brownfields issue or an environmental need for an attorney. So that's something that's good to, have, because those can be, the meter can run and they can be expensive in short order or something like that. But for the most part, what we're moving forward are capital items. We don't generally carry over any operating funds. So if salary line items weren't spent or health insurance line items don't get spent, those all flow into the general fund to help us offset the use of fund balance that we use in the budget that we're up in the 700 and whatever $1,000 this year using. So we always need some money, but when you run through this list, most of this is either projects that are in the works or saving up in a reserve account for some, not necessarily a reserve account, but saving up for something a little bit, or just the timing of some matters, actually.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
And was there an item? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll let that, we'll go to the questions. I don't offer, see if someone would support an amendment, but I'll let Council Whitman go first.
I guess mine would be in the form of question and a potential amendment. If I can.
Of course.
Sure. So historically, we used to, Counselor from Ward 2 used to be Bob, his last name's escaping me for a moment, but
Dave?
David Bounds.
before David,
Okay.
Bob, it was
Oh, Luther.
Bob Luther had us carry forward, I think, 25,000 a year to replace and upgrade playground equipment. And, I'm just wondering, are we still maintaining that in the budget? And if we aren't, I mean, looking around town again at our parks in terms of continuing to try to upgrade that, that would be something that I'd like to see there. And I'd also like to see that we strengthen our ability to contract out for park maintenance for the things that we've had, best intentions to address. And I know our staff are working very hard to address it, but we're not able to get to it all. Those are a couple of things that I'd like to see.
So what are you
addressed.
suggesting that, what would, and maybe you don't know this, maybe it's not a fair question, but you want to make it.
So I would suggest, I'd first like to know the answer to the question, are we still doing the 25,000 for playground equipment?
So two-part answer. So there was nothing in last year's budget in the capital specifically for that to carry forward. But so the answer is there a carry forward of 25,000? The answer is no. But if you look at
That I was aware of, just wondering, where are we carrying? And I guess, again, I think the parks are one of our strongest selling points and
so we do have new money. So we actually have money in the capital budget this year specifically for, so if you get your budget book with you and you look on page 12, we do have playground revitalization in there as a set number this year for $25,000. So just to backtrack a little bit, when I kind of looked at the silos of money that we had, either from some of the ARPA money that came in fiscal 22, some of the ARPA money that we're slated to have in 23, and some of the carry forwards that we were working on, I tried to keep more of the meat and potatoes, sidewalks, playground equipment, streets, drainage in the budget. So they would be recurring expenses year after year. And as you recall, we kind of funded some of the nicer to haves, but not the nuts and bolts with the one-time and off money. So repaving the tennis courts, an upgrade to the bathhouses at Bond Beach, the new roof over at the Opeechee track, those types of things were the one and off. So there is 25,000 in capital that my intention would be that keeps getting funded going on. And then you also have a new item within the operating budget that had never been in there before, and that was 15,000 for playground equipment. So, and that could be anything from the mulch that we're doing in some of the playgrounds right now to replacing swings or a slide or something along those lines to it if it wasn't a full capital upgrade. So with the adoption of this budget tonight, hopefully, you will have $40,000 in dedicated capital just for that, in addition to the river walk and the track use roof, and Bond Beach and the improvements that we're doing at Weirs for the water accessibility and the gazebo and the lifeguard chairs. So, but dedicated playground money would be $40,000.
I guess from what I recall of what playground equipment cost, 40,000 doesn't go too far. And I guess I just look at, one of our objectives is to attract young families. And I think young families like to take their kids to the playground to use, current kind of equipment. We don't have to be extravagant, but I think we can do better than what we're doing. I think we have made improvements, but some of those, I remember the one in Ward 2 in particular that my daughter was using and she's now almost 18. That was you know,
Park.
yeah, not Tardif, the one, Sanborn Park.
Sanborn Park.
Sanborn Park was brand new 18 years ago or 16 years ago. And I think we did an excellent job at that point. But I think, you know, if we're looking to be attractive to young families, I think that's an area that we can do better. And then I guess I would suggest that to add another 20,000 from the available contingency for that purpose. I think we have good contingency for, you outlined for fuel, and we have a good contingency for, you know, surprise non-capital things that come up that's I think a good directional thing.
Okay.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head with the ones. We do have the non-capital reserve that could be used for those types of purchases. If of this 48,000, if the mayor's talking about repurposing a few thousand, if you want to say instead of the 45,000 going into contingency, which can still, the council can, you know, dedicate for whatever they choose to do going forward. If you want to move 20 or 25,000 into a specific, you know, playground capital line item and make that amendment now, we can do that. And additionally, you still, based on the list of projects I presented to you, assuming you funded all of those, you've still got about $180,000 in remaining ARPA fiscal 23 funds that are going to show up in August that wouldn't necessarily be committed for at that point as well. So you do have several pockets of money that I'm happy to work with the council on.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I'd be willing, based on what's in there, to take that number to 20. And I guess I'd also like to entertain some of it for contingency, from that contingency to present as an opportunity to the police department to deal with the issue we talked before, not just in a policing faction, but in a problem-solving faction, that this, we've identified that park in particular is where, you know, we put a lot into that area and we're not seeing the beautification of it that we have seen remain. So I guess I'm just looking at, you know, just policing the problem isn't enough, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Andrew,
So
you had a-
you're looking at it as sort of an incentive for them to find maybe an evidence-based program policy to address homelessness, and that the money would be there if they gave us a presentation, in other words, about a program that might be available that they think is worthwhile, and we agreed with them, we'd be able to access the money.
Just like we did
Yep. Okay.
a number of years ago tackling.
And how much are you considering for that?
Oh, I guess I would say another 20.
All right. So
Mayor, you had an amendment you want.
I do, and we're still pretty consistent with that right now. So it seems to me the amendment that I would be suggesting would be 3882, because I wanted to round out that number, $3,882, which would go towards the Laconia Multicultural Fest, which is subject to significant price increases this year, just like everybody else, particularly porta potties. So that's the issue that we've got going there, and they need a little more money in order to afford it. So I think that's been traditionally a very successful event in the community, and an additional $3,800 seems like it's money well spent to support it. Go right ahead, Counselor Hamel.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to continue with what Henry said about parks equipment. If you remember, Amy, the director, came in front of us, and Matt, and most of our playgrounds are not ADA compliant. And a lot of that equipment is old. It's 20, 30 years old. I couldn't even tell you when they did Tardif Park. And it's got to be at least 25 years ago. I think I was on the Parks Commission back then when we did that. So that's a few years ago.
Yep.
And that was the only ADA park in Laconia at the
Mhm.
time. I don't know if it meets present day criteria or not, but I think we need to look to put serious money, not 20,000. That's going to buy you 2 units if you're lucky. We probably paid more than that for the chips that we just put on the ground. So I think as a council, we really need to look at this and to be prepared to upgrade those parks with the proper equipment. You know, hopefully maybe Amy and Matt could write some grants. I don't know what's available out there, but I think we need to invest some serious money in this if we want our parks and playground equipment to be what we think it should be. You go by Levitt Park every day and there's 20, 30 people out there. Wyatt Park is just running over with people, and it's good to see the basketball courts and the playground stuff. Carter Park, they get their usage. And Sandborn Park, I've been by there several times with a lot of people, so I think we need to think ahead here a little bit and try and, as Scott would say, silo some money for the parks playground equipment. And it's gonna take a lot. This stuff is not cheap, so.
Counselor
One
Susie.
more item, Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
again, to the Parks and Recs Department, something we can look at because we're trying to promote the city. And what we do here is really good for the city is what we're looking at and bring a lot of people. And that's Pumpkin Fest. We're trying to make Pumpkin Fest a city thing, a Laconia thing. And I think all of us here at this table agree with that. And it doesn't look like this year they're having some challenges, but as we move forward with equipment and everything else like that, I'd like to see us, the council really maybe take the lead and work with our Parks Department about taking the lead on Pumpkin Fest as we move forward and really make it a city organization. Thank you.
So Scott, go right ahead.
So on this sheet that you've seen a few times right now, we went over it last week. We do have $11,000 slated in this one under the ARPA 23 for Wyatt Park ADA to get the final pieces of making Wyatt Park completely. The bigger one that I want to draw your attention to is we have $30,000 slated in there for the ADA transition plan. And that's going to look at our facilities, including our playgrounds and including some of the intersections that need upgrades. And we really need to have that plan, number one, so we've got a roadmap and we start adding, identifying costs that are needed and plan how we're going to, implement that over a period of a couple of years, hopefully. But number two, it's a federal requirement that we have a plan. If we're not up to snuff on everything right now, it's a requirement that we have the plan that lays out what it is that's needed. So both of those are slated for the ARPA money that we should be having in August of 23. But I would highly recommend that we get the plan done over hopefully this winter, and that helps identify going into next budget season exactly what you're talking about with the equipment, so that we've got a structured approach as opposed to, okay, we do a piece here, we do a piece there, but what's the big picture look like over the next 5 years?
I guess just based on how late it already is in the season, we're not talking about something that's going to be installed for this season. So I guess, the next budget, yes, we can build upon that, but I think we need to start building up something here because I do think we need a major investment. I thank you for adding to the perspective, Councilor Hamel. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20,000 here, 20,000 there. Unfortunately, isn't going to get. I mean, we can do the plan, which I wholeheartedly agree with. But once the plan's done, then where's the money going to come from?
Mhm.
So, I think we need to seriously think about this. I mean, I can see it in all our parks and investing $1 million in this stuff. Easy. It might even be more, it might even scare you once we do the plan, and see how much it really costs.
So it looks like we're sitting at if I can say, we're the contingency fund at 48,882. And a friendly amendment would be $20,000 for park equipment improvement. Is that correct? 10,000 for as an incentive in regards to the homelessness issue as
Suggested 20.
20.
Took us 50,000 to do the other program.
Right.
They don't
So
have a good
that's-
plan, we don't spend it.
Fair enough. So that's 40,000. I'm requesting 3882 for multicultural. That leaves us with just under $5,000 left in contingency.
Excuse me, Henry, did you say, what did you say, you had 20 and then 20 more to where?
So the 220s, the first 20 was to add to the parks for playground equipment. Understanding that's not going to necessarily be spent in the next year, just in this season. But that we would have it to build upon for future, and then to have $20,000 potentially available for development of a program that goes beyond policing and trying to solve homeless situation, similar to what we did when we approached, overdose situation, where we made it different. It took some time to get into place, and here again, even if they had a program, it would take them a while to sort of develop the strategy and figure out what they want to do. And so I think it's enough money to get them to seriously think about it.
And I'm just trying to get the discussion going, but are there plenty of agencies out there doing a lot of this now?
Well, I guess we all see the result that we've moved it from cemetery to downtown to where next. I guess that policing can only do so much. It can move people from one location to another location, but fundamentally getting behind the problem further is, I think, what we're looking for. Just like we didn't end overdoses, but we made a difference, enough of a difference that what we did here was nationally recognized and is statewide recognized. So in terms of our police department, our key staff are helping build out that program statewide. So I guess looking at, is there something that they can think of or find from best practices, as the mayor described it, or what have you, that they could come back and they put some time into it, that they know there's some money there to do something.
So you're asking us to start a statewide program?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying by example that our police department is very creative and a leader in the state in terms of accreditation and all other things that give them something more than just telling them to move people around, to see if we can make a difference here, or start to make a difference would be, I guess, a better statement.
Just along with what you just said about the 20,000 for that. I think then you have to start thinking that if the council picks a program or says, okay, your program sounds good, you're probably going to have to put another officer on, because that's what we had to do with the drug.
I mean, that may be the outcome of it. But if we can get the same kind of level of result, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better.
So within your budget book, there is a new police officer position that's funded for half a year. So with available funds would be coming on as of January 1, all things being equal. I remember when Chief Canfield was here with Officer Adams talking about the Department of Justice grant that he has taken the lead on, he meaning Officer Adams, Eric Adams, that we've got a couple of grant positions coming in to backfill with him and to be working, again, continuing on some of the mental health and the substance abuse components of it. And that's not entirely the makeup of homelessness, but that certainly is a component of it. All right. So we've got some grant positions that they're hiring for right now, and we've got a new additional officer coming on board in theory on January 1. So I'm thinking there may be enough boots on the ground there to get us going by the time they identify a program at this point.
So do you have enough information, Scott, for the 3 friendly amendments here to?
So I think you're making one motion to amend, and you're looking at account number 014994010002. And you want to repurpose 20,000 towards playground equipment. You want to do 20,000 to a police contingency with a program geared towards homelessness. You want to do 3,882 for Human Relations Committee Multicultural Day. And the remaining 5,000 we could earmark towards supporting Pumpkin Fest services as needed. And that would square away your 48,882.
Sounds good. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Are you good with that? May as well ask the finance director, right?
No, he's just got more, that's all.
If I might, I'd just like to thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council and Scott. Just remind that these are all presented as not to exceed amounts. I know for example, if you look further down, there's an IT project of at another $48,000. I can tell you for certain that is already spoken for, just in we don't expect the invoice to come in before June 30th. And I'm trying to rack my brain because I don't have the GL with me. I don't believe there's any active projects in that contingency account right now, but that very well could be.
So there may be a little bit of a shortfall, let's say in the 5,000 into Pumpkin Fest as a non-firm item, but we still have opportunity through ARPA funds and through other components that we can pull from for that happening in October. So let's say the first three we would count as firm, and the 5,000 may be a little fungible depending on where the final number is, but we're not aware of anything significantly different at this point.
But what you're saying is that the funds will be available in August?
Through the fiscal year 23 ARPA funds,
Yeah,
that's where
okay.
another 867,000 comes from.
Yeah.
And I think the chamber's doing a great job, and I'm hopeful more people are going to, step up and contribute and sponsor and stuff. So we still have several months until we get to October for that. Obviously, they want the commitments earlier, but we're hopeful they will continue to see good progress in the
Well,
community.
I just, if I might, Mr. Mayor, just quickly, I think Councilor Susi's well-intended and his purposes, I think, shared by, I can't speak for all of us, but, that the council of the city is fully supports the Pumpkin Fest and the activities.
Counselor Hamel.
Yeah, just one quick question, because one of these, the name of the account kind of caught my eye, and it's about a third of the way down. It's called Weed Watchers. I know Henry and I did not get paid for that. When we watch the weeds around the playground and stuff, so
Aquatic weeds, right?
is that what it is?
These are the folks who work at the boat launches through the Conservation Commission,
All right,
who try to help with our milfoil, preventing milfoil from going out on propellers and
I
boats.
like that one. I like that one.
It's a nice job, though. You sit in the
Did you go?
sun and
I never know if I
Okay.
grab a chair and go with it and sit down.
Smoke the tote.
Yeah.
Weed.
I don't know.
Okay, let's get back on track.
Sorry, sorry.
So we've got the four amendments. You've got the information you need on this. There's been an amendment. Who sponsored the amendment?
I did.
Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Terrific. So all those in favor of the amendments, please raise your hands. At 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. So now we're moving this resolution 2022-10 as amended relative to fiscal year 2022 year-end carry forwards as presented. So have another motion, I guess. You want to motion that? It's first by Counselor Hamel, second by Counselor.
think we already voted on
that was just the amendment. you
Just
voted
the
on.
amendment. Second by Counselor Littman.
Whole thing.
it. Yep, okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. At 6 votes in the affirmative. So that motion passes as amended. Moving on to item number 22. We're into unfinished business. now,
Mr.
right?
Mayor, I think we were going to look to suspend the rules and add that new item under
Right.
new business, just to move to a public hearing. Everybody should have a copy of it on their desk, and you got it Friday afternoon in an email as well.
So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to suspend city council rules. So we may consider this. So moved by Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please indicate your support by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. So this is a request to schedule 4 public hearings on July 11th, 2022 during the regular city council meeting for 2 Community Development Finance Authority grants. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at this? I realize it was late arriving. Okay. Right now, be looking for a motion to move to suspend. We've already moved to suspend the rules.
Yep.
Second motion would be a move to schedule a public hearing on July 11th during this regular city council meeting regarding a proposed application to the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority for up to $750,000 in CDBG CV or up to $500,000 in CDBG public facilities funds to support improvements, including window replacement and ventilation at the Boys and Girls Club facility located at 876 North Main Street in Laconia. The majority of the participants at the Boys and Girls Club are of low and moderate income. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Looking for another motion to move to schedule a public hearing on July 11th, 2022 during the regular city council meeting regarding adoption of the city's residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan concerning the proposed improvements at the Boys and Girls Club. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, I'm looking to move to schedule a public hearing on July 11th, 2022 during the regular city council meeting regarding a proposed application to this Community Development Finance Authority for up to $170,000 in CDBG housing grant funds. Of the funds, $20,000 will be retained by the city for administrative costs associated with the project. $150,000 of the funds will be subgranted to Lakes Region Community Developers toward the acquisition of 11 Jameson Street. The unit will be rented as affordable housing to a tenant of low or moderate income. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Finally, looking to move to schedule a public hearing on July 11th, 2022 during the regular city council meeting regarding adoption of the city's residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan concerning the proposed Lakes Region Community Developers toward the acquisition of 11 Jameson Street. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. We'll be looking to, do you have to put the rules back in place before you move forward?
Oh, good.
Item number 22A. Counselor Felch has requested this item be placed on the agenda at their June 13, 2022 meeting. City Council conducted a first reading of ordinance 2022-161-25 and voted to schedule a public hearing at this evening's meeting. Request was received from Anthony Santagate to keep Weirs Beach area open until 2 a.m. for business. At May 3rd, 2022 meeting, the planning board approved an extension of entertainment hours until 2 a.m. for Fridays, Saturdays, and motorcycle week. This approval had no effect on the hours for serving alcohol. Under state law, RSA 179:17, the Liquor Commission sets hours for alcohol sales as between 6 a.m. and 1 a.m. 7 days a week. A licensee may sell alcohol until 2 a.m. if the local legislative body, City Council, adopts an ordinance authorizing such sales. The proposed ordinance is attached to council's consideration. Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to waive a reading of this ordinance in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of this motion, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 1, 2. That motion fails. You have to read the whole thing? Is that what that means?
What means?
So how do we move this? I haven't experienced this, Scott.
I think you better clear your throat and start reading page 45.
Not that long.
Although do you have to ask opposed first?
Yeah.
Well, opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4.
What's the question?
No, opposed. You oppose, you oppose everything.
Or
You're oppositional.
I'm gonna-
Never mind. This was just to read the ordinance by title only. I have to
Oh,
read it
okay.
by
I'm-
verbatim.
I'm okay with that.
Settle in.
Too late.
Yeah.
Ordinance 2022-161-25. City of Laconia. In the year of our Lord, 2020.
Should be 2022.
I'm already picking up a typo. You're gonna pay for this.
Just remember who was with you.
Mr. Mayor, as an opposing.
Oh, no, no, no,
director-
no. Oh, yeah, no, we're all set.
As
Counselor Susie, don't interrupt me in reading. An ordinance amending chapter 161 licensing to add a new section 161-25 alcoholic beverages.
Bless them.
As an opposing vote, I can bring it back to the table. The Robert's rules.
What time did you say your flight leaves?
Gonna have to reschedule this flight, I suspect.
City of Laconia ordains that the ordinances of the city of Laconia as amended be and are further amended in chapter 161 licensing to add a new section 161-25 as follows. Chapter 161 licensing. 161-25 alcoholic beverages. Pursuant to RSA 179:17 Roman 2 parentheses B, on premises licensees in Weirs Beach, New Hampshire may sell alcohol until 2 a.m. according to state law on Fridays, Saturdays, and during motorcycle week until such time that the licensee violates state law and/or liquor enforcement rules or regulations. The chief of police may also suspend or revoke the extended hour of sales privilege if at any time he deems it to be in the best interest of public safety. This ordinance amendment shall take effect upon passage. That would be signed by Andrew Hosmer, the mayor, passed and approved this day of 2022. This was printed by Katie Gargano, city clerk. Thank you, Katie. So right now I'd be looking for a motion to move a second reading of ordinance 2022-161-25. Counselor Felch makes the motion, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Or shall I start reading again? It's gonna be a tough one. All those in favor of the motion, go, yes.
Yeah, no, you were calling for the vote. I was gonna.
All those in favor of the motion that's on the table, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 4 votes in the affirmative, opposed, 2 votes in opposition. That motion passes. I take it I've got to read this again.
No, it passed. You're good.
Oh, okay, I was just looking forward
No,
to
no,
reading
no,
again.
no. You've done yeoman's work already.
Next, I'm looking for a motion to approve ordinance 2022-161-25, amending chapter 161 licensing to add a new section 121-25 alcoholic beverages. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Counselor Hamel.
Thank you. I can't say that the owner of these places hasn't done a great job, because he has. But there's always 2 sides. And I remember Fred always saying, one side sells entertainment, one side sells sleep. And I think 1 o'clock is a good hour to end things. And so I'm not going to support the 2 o'clock thing.
I've never met a person that goes to Weirs Beach for sleep.
Noise carries.
Counselor Felch.
So I'll respond to that, because the planning board has actually already allowed entertainment until 2 a.m. This is for liquor. So he can still have loud music till 2 a.m. without serving liquor. Plus, I just want to say the majority of the people I have heard from are in favor of this, and I vote for the people.
Music isn't that loud, is it?
No, it's inside.
Counselor Whitman.
I would agree with what Council Hamel said. I think you've done a good job in terms of your establishment and the events that you've run. I guess I'm just wondering whether we could take a small step to see how it works as opposed to opening it. I was concerned about how far we're opening up, and which is motorcycle week might be a chance to try it out to see what effect it has. I mean, I'm also concerned about the people who are, unexpectedly late at night, running into people that have been drinking that long or not necessarily drinking that long or drinking that late. So I think there's a public safety component that, motorcycle week, people expect that things are gonna be going on, right? That people are out having a good time, typical Friday, Saturday night. I'm not sure that's expected, so I guess that would be my attempt to reach across the aisle here to try something to see and evaluate it.
Well, would you consider putting it in place through the end of the year and seeing if it's worth considering extending it through motorcycle week of next year? Because waiting until next year for motorcycle week kicks it out 50 weeks now.
Yeah.
So we can sort of, they can show whether that works well or not. We'd have to come back and have that discussion and take a look at how it worked out. Go right ahead, Counselor Susie.
I'm agreeing with Councilor Hamel. I think there's a safety issue here. I also think that there's additional development going on up at the Weirs with all these new condos going in. You're not gonna get the people that are there until 2 o'clock in the morning drinking, but you're gonna get the people that are there to relax and somebody said sleep or anything else besides that. I think 2 o'clock is fine. The other thing is, what is really the benefit to the city?
Well, I mean, I think the benefit to the city is, we have a businessman here who's, been able to elevate the.
I think he's done a fantastic
So
job.
I think that the benefit is promoting,
Supporting the person
supporting
that's done
business
this.
and supporting the Weirs, which is a seasonal operation to a large extent. And, from that standpoint, I'm sensitive to it. On the other hand, I do have some concerns.
Yeah, there's one thing we can say about Anthony and Anthony Santagate is, we've worked with him a lot and taken, maybe some chances. Maybe we've made some votes here to support him and just wanted to see how it went. And, I think time and time again, he's proved himself to be fulfilling his, you're responsible, right? Yeah, thank you. Responsible and fulfilling what we anticipate his obligations were when we approve things like Wake the Lake and Biketoberfest and things of that nature. So anyway, Counselor, I'll go to you right next. Okay, sure. Counselor Cheney.
Well, I would remind the council that we asked him to invest substantial money to deal with the noise problem. And from every indication I've gotten from folks, that problem has been dealt with. So I think it's kind of unfair to talk about the noise level. We received complaints about the noise level and asked him to fix it, and he did. And from what I understand it, no small investment. So I will vote in favor.
Council.
So if we pass this ordinance, well, we have a good track record with Anthony. There are other people who then will be able to take advantage of it, which we have no track record with. Can we narrow this down as a pilot in one situation? Because I'm concerned we just open it up here. This ordinance doesn't, it's not the Anthony.
And I have no problem with your suggestion of doing it for the summer and seeing what happens. We'll see the others, I'm sure. And it may well be a problem, but waiting a whole year to try this out seems.
And I think it
bit
does say the Weirs specifically, so.
Yeah. There aren't too many other.
Does that include the NASWA or not?
It would, but I don't know if she'd take advantage of it.
Yeah, okay, I'm just wondering how, anyway.
Yeah.
So we did check with legal counsel to that point where you can set restrictions, so you can do it just on a Friday and Saturday night if you want, rather than doing it 7 nights a week. You could do it during motorcycle week, but it needs to be for what is a definable area. It's not specific, as you said, just to these two properties of Tower Hill Tavern and the Big House. It is the Weirs. So, it's how we define the Weirs, but yes, it could be the NASWA, it could be the old Faro building, a Boardwalk Cafe, Bar Salida is down there. You've got
Vita at the Alpen Rose Plaza.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah.
is there. You've got the is it High Octane that it's referred to now up on Route 3 at Roller Coaster in Watson.
And I think you'll find almost all of those close way before 1 o'clock, except for maybe High Octane.
And they don't have to. I mean, they don't have to run till 2 o'clock if they choose not to.
I'm sure they won't.
But it is more than just two specific businesses.
So unless there's any further requests for discussion or questions,
Well, I thought there was potential offer an amendment to say it was for this year. This, from now until the end of
who would
this
like to
year.
offer that amendment?
I'll offer that amendment. And that should give us time to see if it's creates any
I'll second
problems.
it.
Is that Friday and Saturday only?
Friday and Saturday only.
Through December 31st, 2022.
Yep. Made and seconded.
But we go through January 1st in case he's open on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
It's about January
I'm-
1st, okay. So, all those in favor of that,
I think there
let's
may
go
be
the,
more discussion. I'm just looking at the councils. Anybody else have anything else to say?
Discussion of the amendment.
discussion on the amendment,
No,
pilot program trial through January 1st, 2023.
no, I can't go that direction, Mayor. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
fair enough. So,
Can I, so would this ordinance would have to come back and be renewed? It would end,
Yes,
January 1st.
correct.
Yep. And then we can see it again the first of the year for motorcycle week and beyond.
And by that time, we can get reports from the police and everyone else about any difficulties that have arisen.
okay. So, the motion on the table is just been amended. Well,
We have to vote on the
let's
amendment.
vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed, 2 opposed. That amendment, motion on the amendment passes. Now we're going to move the original ordinance of 2022-161-25, amending chapter 161 licensing to add a new section 161-25 alcoholic beverages as amended.
with the defined date, is it January 1st, meaning runs-
2020.
so it runs through New Year's Eve,
Yes,
not that it runs another day into
Yeah,
January?
right.
Right.
Thank you for the clarity. Yes.
And
Okay.
That might not even be on a Friday or a Saturday.
True. So all those in favor of.
May I ask a
Yeah,
question?
sure. What time is your flight?
5:30.
Careful.
Yeah, I know. Does this include all of the area of the weirs or is just for Anthony's
No.
places?
All of the area.
Weirs. Which most of those establishments close way before 1 o'clock already, so they're not going to extend their hours.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So all those in favor of the motion on the table, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 1, 2, 3 in favor. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3 opposed. I vote in favor. Sure, being so willing to work on that, Henry. Moving on to item number 22B. Scott, would you just take us through that 10,000-foot level before we maybe get to motions?
Yeah, this was an item that was tabled last week for a little bit more information about de-designating a portion of what's referred to as a scenic and cultural byway, which puts some added layer of restrictions about directional signage and those types of things. I think the concerns were, would we be impacting anything with the Chamber of Commerce or the Lakes Region Tourism Bureau with anything that they're marketing as come in and do the scenic byways? And the answer was no. While they certainly encourage people to be traveling our roads and doing that, there's not a specific targeted program that uses that language. So again, this would be de-designating basically everything from on 106, I'm at Lexington Ave coming south all the way, including Main Street, and then running out Union Ave all the way to McIntyre Circle, and then running Weirs Boulevard and including Route 3 to the Meredith Town Line, and also Lakeside Avenue up Scenic and Watson to get back to Route 3. So basically, What it would be leaving as our scenic byway would be anything north on 106 beyond Lexington Ave. And it also would cut down Roller Coaster Road until it intersects with Route 3. And that, I think, meets the intent of something that's more rural and in a more of a natural state anyway.
Thank you, Scott. So is there a motion to take it off the table? So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion on the motion to take it off the table? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? Counselor, please let the record reflect Counselor Susie is not here. So the motion passes. Items off the table. So right now, we're looking for a motion to approve the de-designation of a portion of the Lakes Region Tour Scenic Byway route as requested and as shown on the attached map with the yellow highlighted area depicting the portion of the byway proposed for de-designation. Further move to authorize the city manager to send a formal letter to the New Hampshire Scenic Byways Coordinator as required to initiate the process. Anyone willing to sponsor that motion? So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there further discussion? Counselor Felch.
So I'd rather not de-designate. I mean, look at the Weirs Boulevard. If that's not a scenic byway, I don't know what is. I'd prefer the council to suggest to the state that that the state makes an exception for this sign, since there's already a sign there and they're just replacing it.
If I might, Mr. Mayor, I think the
Please do.
difficulty, Councilor Felch, is it's defined in statute what can and cannot happen on a scenic byway. So we can't just go to them and say, do you mind letting this guy put up a sign? That's not going to work. I hear what you're saying, but I think that's from a previous time and it's time to move forward. Anyways, that I don't think, and you may know differently, but I don't think they'd have the authority to just grant signs.
It was state DOT who discovered this or initiated this through a driving survey where they look at the signage and brought it to the business owner's attention and said, you're not in compliance. They said, we're happy to work with you to de-designate it. We were not going to oppose it, but you need to go through the process with your governing body, and that's the city council.
Counselor Littman.
So I think, Council Felch, if that's the way you want to go, I think we need someone to sponsor legislation to modify the statute. And that would be you wouldn't be able to do that until next legislative
Next
session.
legislative meeting. Yeah.
So the motion is on the table. Is there any further discussion, questions, comments?
Well, I guess I would defer to Councilor Felch if that's the way he wants to proceed, but I agree with Councilor Cheney that if it's statute, we're just going to be
Pounding our head
on
against.
our head and not making any progress on
Yep.
this. I mean, I was willing to, I was the one that asked it be to take it back to make sure that this wasn't being used regularly, and the manager, I think hasn't been publicized since 1991, maybe. So I
Long
think
time.
it's, for all intents and purposes, there may be scenic byways, but nobody in the world is aware of them. So
Also, Scott, we de-designate this. The planning department still has say over what signs go where.
Absolutely. And I sent you the information. The property owner came in and applied for the sign and met all the dimensions, paid the fee and got the approval. Absolutely. So we still have a sign ordinance in place and nothing changes there.
So you probably would not see billboards on the lake side of the property.
No, everyone would have to comply with our sign ordinance as it exists unless it changes somewhere in the future. So this does not open anything up to wholesale changes. What this really is allows now for a directional sign, because this particular property doesn't sit on Route 3 and it's not their land. It allows for a directional sign for people to find this business. That's really the only change to it.
So also, if we vote to de-designate, this still has to go through the state too.
It requires a letter with a record of the vote going to the state, and the state has indicated they would not be opposing this.
Any further comments, questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion on the table, please indicate by raising your. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to item number 22C, which is second reading petition to lay out a class 5 highway, Cottonwood Ave cul-de-sac. Is this on the table, Scott?
Yes, it is. That's your first motion down below.
Where am I looking here?
Page 49.
49 it is. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to take this item off the table. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Looking for a second motion to waive a reading of this petition in its entirety. Read by title only. Thank you, Counselor Cheney. Seconded by Counselor Haynes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions or concerns? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 6 votes in the, 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Next, we'll be looking to move a second reading of petition to lay out a class 5 highway, Cottonwood Avenue cul-de-sac. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussions on this? Counselor Lipp,
I'd like to make a motion with respect to this matter.
please do. Go ahead.
I think you want to do the second reading and then go to Counselor Lippman's motion. Would be the proper way.
Not done yet.
We did not put a staff recommendation as sometimes we do on this because there were several options and we didn't want to be predetermining what we thought the outcome would be as staff. So a move of the second reading is warranted, and then the motion as to what you're looking to do regarding the layout would be the next motion.
So we have to vote.
Yeah, we have to vote now on
The second reading.
You're just moving the second reading
Just
right
moving
now.
the second reading. Okay.
So you could be perfectly fine to
All
take
those
a
in favor,
vote.
so all those in favor of the moving the second reading, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Now, the next step,
The opening to motions as to what is the council's.
we are open to motions.
So I'd like to
Council
make a motion. I'm going to read this slowly, so hopefully you can get it, Kate. I move that we grant the petition to lay out the Cottonwood Drive cul-de-sac as petitioned by Nancy Edelson and find that an occasion to do so exists for the following reasons. First, it is important to note that we're not being asked to decide between the cul-de-sac as it presently exists on the ground and the T or hammerhead proposed by Taylor Community. Nor are we accepting the dedication of the cul-de-sac. We've been asked to lay out a public cul-de-sac over the existing private road cul-de-sac. While Taylor Community has granted permission for the city and public to utilize that public road, the permission may be withdrawn for everyone other than Ms. Edelson at any time. Now, the reasoning. 1, the cul-de-sac will integrate well with the existing road system. It was dedicated to public use in 1987 and has in fact been used as part of the existing road system for decades, with the city maintaining it until 2021 with no objection from the Taylor community. 2, laying out the cul-de-sac will result in improvement to the convenience of traffic. Without the cul-de-sac, there is no area for any car to turn around at the dead end of Cottonwood Drive. 3, laying out the cul-de-sac will facilitate the transportation of school children because it will provide for a place for school buses to turn around at the end of Cottonwood Drive. 4, laying out the cul-de-sac will result in improved and more efficient accessibility for fire, ambulance, emergency, and police services to serve the city at large where seconds count. And it will as well serve to support the more efficient removal of snow and public works services. 5, the cul-de-sac is laid out. It is anticipated that it will be used daily. 6, laying out the cul-de-sac will cause the city to incur only minimal additional yearly costs for maintaining the road, as evidenced by the city's maintenance of the cul-de-sac between 1987 and 2021. No damages are assessed to Taylor community, which dedicated to the cul-de-sac to public use in 1987.
So you'll second it, Counselor Susie. Is there further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Under item 22D, which is a second reading of resolution 2022-08 relative to making itemized appropriations for city funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, terminating June 30th, 2023. Right now, I'd be looking to move a motion to waive reading of this resolution to read by title only. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Susie. Any questions? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Second, I'm looking for a motion to move a second reading of resolution 2022-08 relative to making itemized appropriations for city funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and terminating June 30th, 2023. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Felch. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally,
Nope,
wait,
nope, nope, nope.
we're going
So
to
you have this document that says staff report on it on your desk from this evening. This is everything that we went over last week with you about additional funds for roads and bridges and kiosk and Counselor Hamill's changes to add jaws of life and remove a staff vehicle. So everything is identified by the numbers on the second page of it. And this incorporates everything we went over and everything that was offered up last week. So you do have 3 specific motions, Mr. Mayor, as an amendment on the third page of that handout. And then you can go back to do one final vote, assuming you're finished, to approve the budget as amended.
Yep. So right there,
So,
page 3.
So on page 3 of your handout that was on your desk,
yes,
that incorporates everything that we talked about last week and that you had consensus to amend last week.
okay, so I have finished, we have done the first 2 motions on
Yes.
page 50.
Yes,
All right, so now the next 3 motions are what we need to read.
to amend it to reflect everything on the second page here.
Gotcha. Okay. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move to amend the general fund lines of resolution 2022-08 to change total appropriations to $82,219,293 and revenues to $30,900,291 and balance to be raised by taxes to $51,391,002. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Secondly, be looking to move to amend the anticipated grants lines of resolution 2022-08 to change total appropriations and revenues to $3,421,903, an increase of $867,000. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion? Yes.
I just want to, before we get to the end of this, compliment us for the efficiency in which we're getting this done compared to prior years. Thank you. Go on, please.
You don't want to do it times 9?
Well done. All right, all those in favor of, where are we? You threw me off. The motion?
Yeah, you're on the third motion.
No,
Vote
This is the second.
on the second motion. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Thirdly, finally, we're looking for a motion to amend the internal service fund lines of resolution 2022-08 to change total appropriations of revenues to $1,424,245, a decrease of $55,000. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes, which does bring us to the end of our agenda. And
One more
Not
vote on
very
the
much.
on the motion as
On the other
amended.
page.
where's everybody yelling? Are we looking,
I want a budget.
Let's do it.
are we looking for a motion to move to approve resolution 2022-08 relative to making itemized appropriations for city funds for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, terminating June 30th, 2023. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Felch,
And that's as amended, correct?
as amended.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Oh,
Riz.
I feel compelled to make a quick statement here. I presented my first municipal budget in 1970. I've been doing those and state budgets ever since. This guy leaving here in September, or at least I think he might. And he still puts together this budget, which I'm impressed with. And has got a grasp of all of this stuff. And I think we all owe him a thank you for doing as good a job this year as he's done every year. I'm sure that sounds trite, but I mean it sincerely. I'm impressed with a man who, looking at the end of the line, can still put in the effort he's put in for this budget. Thank you very much. I vote in favor.
Thank you, Glenn.
Took the words right.
That close to the end of the line.
Both are
I
true.
appreciate your work.
Although, where are we? Do we-
All those- we're voting.
All those in favor. Please indicate by 6 votes in favor, that motion passes. And as we get
Question,
close to
you know
the
that.
final, I would ask the city council, I thought David Stamps made a very good presentation. Not looking to be controversial here, but I would encourage the city to hang the flag at least to the end of the month, which is the end of Pride Month. Can we build a consensus here?
I have died. Won't have any problem with this.
So in terms of recognizing that for the month, I guess, can you just elaborate a little more what the proposals in terms of how we would do it? And I think that we really need to take it back for some policy consideration in terms of, how much of this we want to, when I say this, how many different types of flags do we want to have? I think we have a consensus around what we currently display. When we start to bring other things in, we run the risk, and this one may not be the one that is the risk, but we run the risk. So
Mr. Precedent was
being divisive, and not in being inclusive here. And I guess I would just like to say, if we're going to think how you demonstrate flags is a very sensitive issue to a lot of people. And so I think that we need to take that back and get some consultation about how we do that. But I have no problem with, at the request of the Human Relations Committee to simply display it to the end of the month. But I guess in terms of how we would do that, I guess is the question.
I think Councilor Lippman's point is well taken. Do we have a city flag that we fly?
It's right there.
We've got one downstairs in the mayor's office, I believe I think we only have one, but I'm not aware that we.
I mean, Councilor
Never
Lippman, I'm
found that
not
outside.
pointing this at you, but I've heard constituents complain that we don't fly a city flag also. So I think your point's well taken. I don't know if we need to have a proposal or some form of jurisdiction of who can fly a flag and what, on a city property, what. But I don't have a
That's
problem
my
with.
big question, because we're gonna have other
He's gotta
people
use
wanting
his
the
mic.
same thing. Every different organization, and then we setting precedent. Nothing against the flag that we were asked to today, but we're gonna look at it as a whole. That's the only,
I think we've got the ability as a city to do that and do it well. Am I saying it's without some challenges? I don't know. There'll be plenty of challenges associated with it, but I think this. So I'm up to the end of the month. Sure, that'd be great. I think in crafting a policy from here on out as to what flags we do. I think that's a good follow-up discussion to have.
Yeah, I'd like to consult with people who are knowledgeable on these issues. And there's also, I think, some recent Supreme Court decisions that affected Boston in terms of what flags could or couldn't be flown. And so I just think that we should take it back and develop
Fair enough.
something more. And I guess just would like to know what we would do, how we would display it currently is So we're aware
Because
of
I
that.
think the Supreme Court ruled against the city of Boston.
In terms of limiting, I don't pretend to know what the entire law is, but I think we ought to educate ourselves before we make a policy on the fly.
So Scott, if we're considering this, to do this, would it be possible to hang it similarly to the healthcare flag?
For 2 days.
I don't know how much room we got left. Pull down the one that's there, just replace it.
Where's that?
In front of the building?
I'd have to look to be, and so I just saw that get unfurled tonight. It seems to be a pretty large size, and I don't know if that's the same size as our current flag outside. Something tells me that's probably quite a bit bigger than our flag. So without looking at the hardware or the mechanism, I don't even know if we've got the ability to fly a second flag on this pole out here. I just don't know about the hooking mechanism. and that type of
Yeah,
stuff
I don't
to
think
it.
your
So-
flag, if it's comparable in size to the American flag, I don't think it should be flown. I mean, I think there's an issue with the American
Okay.
flag on that,
And so-
about size, yeah.
But if it's on the building,
It's on the building, I don't think you run into that same.
right,
problem.
versus.
Do
underneath
you remember how we mounted the one that's out there now for the support our healthcare workers?
Could we hang it out the window? I'm being serious.
Yes.
Out 2 windows here in the front.
We'll work to get something out tomorrow. I just don't know, not knowing this was happening tonight and logistics, if there's the consensus to get it displayed. From now until the end of the month, we'll find a way to give it the appropriate treatment and have it displayed if that's the consensus.
All those in favor that we could do this to the end of the month, please indicate that we have consensus. We haven't asked for a vote. Just. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we have people who are opposed.
I just think we need to have more information on this.
Use his microphone.
I just think we need to have more input on this and I don't know, we might have to ask legal about it too. That's the only reason.
Go right ahead, Council.
I'm not anxious, to be honest with you, to see what happens after we start displaying it, but to do it for a couple of days, I wouldn't be opposed. But I think we ought to commit to finding out
A policy.
legally and procedurally, and how do we keep the Communist Party or the Nazi Party or,
Right.
or the Church of Latter-day Saints. And I don't mean to disparage the Latter-day Saints in the same crowd with those, but my point is, I think I agree with Henry. We ought to have some idea of what the parameters are.
So what I guess I would like to do is have, work with legal counsel on that and the city council, maybe keep
For the future, yeah.
going forward for the future.
So given that, I would add my vote for the consensus today with the understanding we're going to look at this more
We're
carefully.
going to build a policy
Yes. That's fair
okay.
enough.
So it seems to me we have consensus here. Not unanimous, but we have consensus.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:18
The
PM.
City of Boston was found wrong.
Um,
Because
limiting
they